That's where you have to figure out, like, do I want corporate sponsors or do I want to figure out a way to self-fund this? Because the more money you accept, the less control you have. Yep. And that's what we knew with our surf doc. It's like, we don't want anybody giving us money. Yeah. One, I don't know how we'd convince people to give us money for this one. But two, like, it's just, we want to be able to tell the story no matter what that story is.
All right, welcome to the Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today I'm joined with Ian Planchon from 515 Productions. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you very much.
I was hoping to have your wife, Lynn, melling in as well, but we had a little snafu with scheduling at the end because I was going to ask, I love it when I have a husband and wife team on because I love to ask the husband and wife questions about owning a business together. So you're going to be unchallenged. Whatever you say is
I'll try and be truthful.
So let's give our audience a little introduction about what you do, and we'll dive in a little bit how we met and kind of go from there. But why don't you tell us a little bit about 515 Productions?
Yeah, I mean, we're a production company. We started out, our roots were like in action sports, outdoorsy type things. But then we started in Iowa, and there's a lot of big corporations in Iowa, and they like to hire people, and the money's there, and so we do corporate stuff, and that's kind of where we landed. We do a lot of corporate video production, but in our downtime, we like to do more outdoorsy stuff that keeps us kind of like creative, And then the benefit of that is we get to take those creative moments that we learn in those outdoorsy environments, and we get to apply them to our corporate side. So what we like to say is that we're a corporate video production company that's not your standard corporate video production company.
Right. Well, it definitely has a life to it. We'll have everything in the show notes at the end, but people should definitely check out your website. It's a killer website, and your videos are really impressive.
Thank you.
On a personal note, you're from Alaska, that's right?
Correct.
And so my cousin's been up there. I know we've tied a few ties just talking about some Alaska stuff on a recent Pella shoot that we did, which is how we met a couple of years ago. You came to my personal home, and we shot for just a couple hours that day. And that was the first time I had met you. But then just here recently this summer, we were down in Pella, Iowa, again with Pella and with Brad Levitt from AFT, and of course myself. And that was a 3-day shoot. Yep. And that was really fun. I think you see behind the scenes, I think one thing that I think videographers and just DVD extra sets have been up for a long time, right? You get the last DVD in your set gets to do the behind the scenes. But to being part of a production team, even though this was like small commercial setting, like watching the scale of this, I have such a new appreciation for like, A, what you do, number one, but B, like how much effort and time would go into like a full-on, for even a documentary, but a full-length movie is just mind-blowing. Yeah.
And that one, the most recent project you're talking about, that we started talking about that in December of last year. So, we're coming on like 9-10 months of pre-production, production, and, we're into the post-production phase of it now. And it'll finally wrap up in like September. It's a long process. Yeah. And we were only working with you for 3 days, and it's like all that planning and like, okay, they were done.
And at the end of it, it might be, a series of 30-second to, I don't know what the final cut is going to be. I know there's the social side I'm more aware of because obviously we'll be posting a lot of the shorter stuff that consumers like. But the actual movie that they're going to probably have on Pella's website as well as some maybe advertisements?
It's a couple minutes, yeah. Yeah, it's not very long. I mean, for the amount of footage that we shot, terabytes and terabytes of footage that we shot. If you guys would have been able to nail your lines a little bit better, we would have.
Hey, I just remember someone brought a squirt gun to the Dog and Pony Show.
I was just looking at that footage, actually.
Well, for those out there listening, maybe we'll walk through because I think this is really interesting for those that are interested in doing brand. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on, other than I want to hear your story about 515, but maybe since we're here right now, I want people to understand a little bit about how brand ambassadorship works. I think there's a lot of people that listen to the podcast that sometimes wonder, and myself too, as of 6 months ago or even a year ago, I didn't have as clear a picture as I do now. And so maybe we'll walk through a little bit of that. So, I guess for my part, and I don't know if this is true for everyone, but for my part of the story, I've been working with Pella for almost 20 years now, and Brad Levitt has worked with them for, well over a decade. And knowing that we're A, friends, and B, both big Pella supporters, he's down in Arizona in the heat, and I'm up here in Minnesota. And because you're from Alaska, it's like people love to think that the cold is just this crazy thing. And I'm like, oh, come on. I can't take the heat. Give me the cold all day long.
No kidding.
So it kind of was born from that. So I remember talking to Pella Corporate and saying, hey, you've got two people that are both pro Pella people. people, kind of pitching them this idea. And remember those hot, cold sandwich bags you get at like, the grocery stores or whatever?
Yep.
Keep hot things hot and cold things cold. Well, I thought, why not have these two builders come on? We'll do some product testing and just kind of see where it goes. Well, 6 months, they kind of went dark. And then before you know it, they're having conversations with you.
Yeah.
And they invite Brad and I down to Pella, Iowa for 3 days. And people will start seeing these videos here, I think, yet this fall.
Yeah. No, it's all about planting the seed, right? And that's the thing with I'm not as familiar with it being from the ambassador side. I'm more familiar from being on the okay, we got this cool guy who's going to tell us, all these cool things about this product, and we can shoot it in a cool way. So that's where our familiarity comes from. But it definitely is about just saying something, right? Like if you don't pitch that idea, it's never going to happen. So
it's the story, and I think, and I'm certainly not the creator of it, but one thing that I love to do, even in home building, I want something to have a story in it. And a home is very personal, what I do, but I love the idea. Lately, I've been working with crafters or people that have, whether it's tile, or we work with a company called Hennepin Made that does these handmade glass. It's just beautiful. It tells a story, and I want to kind of piggyback that on in a minute here, because I know that's really key to what you're trying to do in your cinematography. Is you're telling a story, and people just gravitate. If you can get that story into them in a pretty quick hook, like they're there for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Walk us through a little bit so we can talk more, I guess, about how the Pella shoot went, or maybe we'll start there. So I had noticed on LinkedIn you had posted, you had a 25 person plus crew, plus walk us through a little bit of the complexity. So you've got two builders coming in. Obviously, corporate's going to want to have their say in what we can and can't say. And I love how I had to keep looking at legal. Every time I would say something that was a little maybe too salesy, like, you can't say best in the universe. That's unsubstantiated or whatever it is, right? Yeah. But walk us a little bit through like what is your mindset going into an event like that?
Yeah, our mindset always starts with how easy can we make this, right? And we start there, and they say, okay, well, we can make it really easy if we had this amount of people, right? And so taking Pella as an example, that's a huge corporation. It's a huge building. And so we knew typically we have like a 4 or 5 man crew. That's like our bare bones crew, and we're really light in our feet. But if we have to move all these lights, then we need more than 4. And so we just take this equation, we plug in. We know we have three days to shoot with these 2 guys. We know we have this much footage to shoot. Now we just have to throw everything at it until we get the right formula on the other side. And so that's where we started. We knew we had a set we had to build at a different studio. We know we had to be at all the corners of the plant, in one day. And then we also knew that we had to be lighting inside. We had to be controlling light outside. We had to be shooting these experiments that have never been done before. And so it's like, how many people do we need to actually pull this off without going over the top? And 25 apparently was the answer.
Oh, that's funny. Now, how many of those people would be on your inner team versus like contractors?
We don't have any employees.
Okay.
So yeah, it's Lynn and I. We started the company in 2006, and we started with the idea of that we never want to have an employee because, one, we're terrified of that.
Yeah, sure.
If their career is on our shoulders, that's kind of a scary prospect. But we've been in business for 20 years, so maybe we could have pulled it off. But we like to have our subcontractors have the ability to go work with other people, because if they're learning from other people, then we can learn from our people too.
Right.
And so we're constantly having these new creative people come through and working with us, and we're always learning from them. Bruce, who was the cinematographer on this shoot,
he was the head camera guy there.
So he was. Yep, he was. He and I kind of co-director of photography. The role, I was the main director, and he was the director of photography / camera operator. He just got a mentorship with American Society of Cinematographers, ASC. It's a big deal, and so he's going to be learning from people who are within that group of people. And he works with us, and it's like he's gonna learn so much and be able to bring that back to us, and that's why we don't want employees, because they get stagnant working with just us, just with our clients. We never grow that way.
Is that pretty common in the film industry?
In the film industry, I would say yes, because it's hard to, you can't keep 25 people on staff.
Well, they'd be massive, right?
Yeah, and like, what are they going to do when we only need 4 people? Like you just need to be able to scale up, scale down whenever you need to. And so that's kind of an industry standard thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How do you, when you go about doing, let's say, a bid for Pella, and they're writing, who writes the script, and like walk us a little bit through of that, the maturation of how a brand comes forward with, obviously you have, let's say in this case, you have the ambassadors, Brad and I. We know we're going to be talking about Pella windows, so you have a few things that you know for sure.
Yep.
And now you're being hired to do it. Walk us through like when you're looking at it, is that just something over experience and like, even like building a house, right? I guess maybe it is the same. Like I have a plan, then I go get bids from my various I have my preferred vendors, right? But I guess if if Bruce is, in Argentina filming, a penguin migration, he's not going to be here.
Yeah.
So walk us through like, how do you actually formulate a bid? And then timing's got to be a nightmare, getting everyone's schedules to line up.
Yeah. And so I will say without a doubt, Pella has been the best client we've ever had. They're an amazing company, but specifically our one person we work with there, who Lara she is the most amazing person we've ever worked with. Like in terms of just compassionate, being like a person first, and then a client second. Friend obviously top of the list as well. But she has always known that if we're going to do good work, she needs to rely on people to do the good work. And she also knows that, okay, well, Ian says Bruce is the guy for the job and Bruce isn't available. All right, let's move the dates.
Sure.
Right. And so they've always been really good about being flexible with dates. Now, your shoot, the dates were a little more strict. You had some scheduling issues. Brad had some scheduling. We had some. So it's like we finally nailed down the dates. And I just reached out to everyone. I was like, these are the dates.
Right.
Whatever you got going on, cancel it. These are the dates. And
that was really hard.
Yeah. And again, my crew is amazing. We've been working with all those guys for Rob, who is the lighting guy. I've been working with him for 17, almost 18 years now. And so he was like, yeah, I'll be there. Then he had to leave on the last day. But that's, anyway. So with like the script process and everything, it's always a collaborative effort, right? And so they'll like one of us will throw out a rough idea, like you throw out a rough idea, and they say, okay, well, let's get our copywriting team to start drafting up some ideas, and then you spend 8 months finalizing those ideas, and then you get on the day and you saw how much that script changed.
Well, and it's funny. I mean, I'm really impressed for those that can't see Ian. I mean, you got to see the sparkle in this guy's eyes. Like you're really good at keeping a light touch on the set. Granted, I have no other comparison. Like I've not been in any other movies or anything like that, so I'd have no idea to know how normal that is. But something Brad and I commented on a lot is what a good director you were, because obviously we're not paid actors. Well, I guess we are paid. So in that one moment we are. But the point of it is like, it's not our normal day job.
Right.
And so like I thought you were so good at, sometimes you got to soften up. And Dan, obviously one of the Pella guys there, we had such a good time, telling jokes, and, you're obviously whispering in people's ears, trying to make them mess up. In some ways that kind of breaks the tension. Like as a director, I got to believe like, hey, you need to get the ship moving in a direction, but you also need to be light enough and let the, I guess in this case, the actors and actresses relax enough that they're real. Otherwise it's going to come across as really stiff. I feel like you have a very awesome pulse. I'm like, nope, that's not it. Yep, that's it. And
well, I appreciate that. There is no reason, and we've believed this from day one, there is no reason not to have fun while you're doing this job. Like we get to do this job, right? Like we are so extremely lucky that we've been able to be in business as long as we have, and we're still out there having fun. But I think if we took it so seriously that we're just not out there having fun on these shoots, we would have been shuttered a long time ago.
Right.
Because people like you feel it, right? Yep. You get on set, and if I'm just like so uptight that we're not going to get the job done, and I'm just a jerk to you guys,
right,
you're not going to come back, and you're going to tell the clients about that. But we did know with this shoot, timing was critical. We only had 3 days, and so typically Lynn actually wouldn't be on set with us. My wife Lynn would not be, but we brought her in as the assistant director strictly to watch the time.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I would start having too much fun with you guys, and I needed someone to rein me in. And so she was our insulation.
Well, for those listening, we show up, and the scene 2 was like my dream. It was like I got to use a fire hose and shoot it at a window with a 65-mile-an-hour fan. That guy backed that trailer up with this giant testing fan, and he's blowing the power. You're a fireman. What kind of PSI is coming out of a fire hose like that?
That one was strictly off the hydrant, so it was only, I think that hydrant was only pushing 80 PSI. So it really was not that much, but still it's a lot of water.
But what I was impressed at, never having operated a fire hose before, is the water couldn't actually escape the wind. The 65 65 mile an hour wind was strong enough to knock that wind right into the window and not let it pass it. Not I was just.
I was going to say, and also back into you.
Oh, I was drenched head to toe, and I was having a ball.
And that was something we were not planning on. Like I looked at you I was like, oh crap, he's soaking wet now, and we have to go inside and shoot a scene as if this never happened.
And you just saw the grin on my face, like, well, clearly Mark doesn't seem to care because he's having a ball.
I just edited that scene the other day. I was putting it in because there's the scene where you're screaming, you're like, yeah, and I was like, that's got to go in. No, I can't wait for you to see it because there's a couple other shots in there that I was like, well, this has to go in strictly because we were talking about this on set or this joke was happening, and so this shot has to be in there now because you guys will get it.
Like the timing of it.
Yeah. So it's all great. We're having a fun time editing it.
So I mean that was it was actually kind of a side note. I don't know if you know this. So obviously I got completely soaked, and we ended up keeping the same clothes for all 3 days of the shoot because obviously for the 60-second video, you're gonna want to be dressed the same. So I went into corporate, and of course I'm just dripping head to toe. And I think I actually took my shirt off on the way to the parking lot, thinking like I got to dry this. So first of all, I'm not a small person. I'm 6'2", and I'm walking in, and everyone's like looking at me like, what? Why does this guy have his shirt off? I walk into the bathroom and I sit on the floor, and I had to go I switched into some pink shorts that we use later maybe. And I think wardrobe was helping get a little hair dryer, but I'm sitting in there in pink shorts and a tank top because that's all I had to dry it. And people were, kudos to the people at Pella. You guys can roll with like whoever's sitting in your lobby. They were just like, oh, hey, how's it going? Welcome to Pella. So anyways, just sort of humorous.
You stood in front of the fan for a little bit too, though.
I did.
Yeah. I know legal was really nervous about that because that thing it could shoot projectiles out, but it worked out well. It seemed like.
I think, what was the legal guy's name?
Jesse.
Yeah. Oh, I have the funniest video that I took. I don't think I've posted it yet. I'll post it when we start posting the videos, but it was basically me doing a little spoof with him like, hey, Jesse, we became real good friends for the last couple of days. I think I more so than Brad, I was more the loose cannon. Yeah,
he was, I think he wasn't realizing how important his job was going to be because there was a quote unquote approved script as we went into it. But then, as things do, they just change. And that's when he really stepped up because he was like, hey, can we say this? And he's like, you can say what was on the script. I'm like, yeah, but we're not saying that anymore. Can we say it this way instead? And he's like, oh man, this is terrible.
Have you been on other, I know you've done documentaries. I want to talk about that in a little bit. We'll save that towards the end. But have you been on, let's say, what people would normally think of as movies? Like how similar is, let's say, a promo ad for a corporation, just a different scale and size to, let's say, a movie?
So I went to film school, and so my introduction to films was shooting on sets, and so, but that's where I left it. I knew I didn't want to do that because it was way too rigid, and then I ended up finding myself in these other situations that are similar. So it's not that much different. It's just the scale is much smaller. So while we had 25 people for the 3 days, they could have upwards of 150 people for 3 months, and so keeping track of those logistics is insane. But it's similar. It's, you still have to have.
It's just scale.
Yeah, it's always about scale.
Yep.
So everything in this industry is about scale. It can be really big or it can be really small. And the really small ones can be amazing and the really big ones can be really bad. And it's just about who's doing what.
Right. Now, we've done a 6-hour shot before. It was a 4-man crew up at my personal house. Yep. Then this one was a 25-person crew. Is that typically your range of crew sizes, or what would you normally find on
we try and average like 5 to 6 is our smallest crew. I think actually at your house it was technically only a 2-man crew.
Was it only 2?
Yeah, and Laura was there. She didn't count because she asked some questions, but she's corporate. She's the client.
Yep.
But we just they were like, hey, we have a small amount of time and here's what we got. And they're like, all right, well,
we can make it work.
Me and another guy. Yeah. So that's the smallest. That's something we do not like to do.
Right.
But we average about 5 to 6 people is kind of what we stick with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walk me through a little bit, switching gears. Well, first of all, what percentage, you had mentioned how there's a kind of a good blend between your corporate clients and kind of, in the wild documentary. Let's talk a little bit about that. But what percent right now in a year would roughly be the split? Is it 50-50?
Oh, God, no. It's like 90% corporate.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And that's we get nervous about that at times just because we do like to keep our creative edge, and it's kind of hard to stay creative with corporate because there's some things in there. But again, Pella is really amazing about keeping their minds open and allowing us to do fun things. But we actually the outdoorsy stuff is those have been things that we've done on our own.
Okay.
Right. And so it's like we know we needed to step away and refresh ourselves just a little bit. And so we did the surf film.
Would it be called a passion project? Are you getting paid for that? Like, walk us through that. 'Cause, I mean, people need to check that out. I haven't watched the full feature of it, but you guys were on the North Shore in the winter time, right?
Yeah. And we were there for 3 years. We went up and back, same crew, same small bare bones crew, the 5 or 6 people. I called them and said, hey, this is what we're doing. And yes, it's called the Passion Project. Yeah. I wanted to do something that was going to help me inspire myself again and be creative again and just have some fun with what we do and get kind of back to our roots. And I was with Lynn one morning. We were out on a run, and I was talking about surfing on Lake Superior because we happened to just see it one day. And I was like, I think I want to do something about that. She goes, well, just do it. And so I reached out to my guys, and I was like, here's what I can do. I can pay you guys for 4 days total, and not necessarily all 4 days at once, but 4 days total is what I got budgeted for each of you. Once that money's gone, I got nothing, and then it's strictly volunteer, and you can walk away at any time. And each and every one of those guys that I reached out to, they stayed with the production for 3 years. And that's not like we were shooting for 3 years straight, but I want to say we put in maybe 2.5, 3 weeks total worth of actual work. And they only got paid for 4 days, and that's, I think they recognized pretty quickly that it was a passion project for them too. Like they were getting out into the elements and environments they don't normally see themselves in. We got to go out on research vessels out on Lake Superior, and we got to hang out with really cool people and tell really cool stories. And then ultimately, it did really well. It's been running and doing really well at all the film circuits, and it's done now, which is great. I got really tired of it really fast in the end. Yeah. But it was awesome, and that helped kind of put the spark back in us a little bit.
And partly in some people, and obviously the tie-in here on the podcast is, you have a business. I do want to talk some of business stuff because I just think it's interesting. And also, the tie-in, of course, of how we met. But walk me a little bit through. So you have this film, you are self-funding it, or, however this is happening. Once it starts getting picked up by different, cinema film festivals, or walk us through that. Is there any money involved with that? Is it sponsors? Does it get picked up? Is it like, what is
There's no money in this.
There's no money.
There's no money.
Okay.
The end goal obviously would be to get it picked up for distribution.
Okay.
We knew early on that our film was so niche, like you're surfing on Lake Superior, and there's not many people who are going to be interested in that outside of Minnesota. We have been actually really shocked about the reception it's gotten in film festivals across the country. It's done very well in those, but it would never, like if you put it on Netflix, I don't think it'd have many people watching it. I could be totally wrong. Maybe I'm selling it short, but
I think you're selling it short. I haven't even watched it. I'm seeing you share. A, your cinematography is beautiful, but 2 is actually today in the paper. So there was a relay team that just broke the open water record. Did you read that?
Yeah.
And so these long distance, actually, I forget her name, but she has the English Channel record for women above, I think, 50. And so it was her and let's say call a team of 4, swam from Split House Lighthouse down to Canal Park.
Yep.
And, they're trying to bring awareness to climate change, which I'm guessing, we can talk
that's what ours was, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but there's obviously a huge market for that kind of awareness. And because Lake Superior has more surface water for freshwater lake in the world, it's a pretty well celebrated.
It's 10% of the Earth's freshwater.
I mean, that's pretty nuts.
It's 10%, and it's like 2 hours north of here, right? But that is something that this whole thing started out as, again, my background is action sports. And so I was like, I'm going to shoot a cool video about surfing in Lake Superior. We're going to set it to music. It's going to be 5 minutes long, and that's all we're doing. And then we went up there and met these people, and I'm like, man, these guys are awesome. And then we met the one guy, one of our main characters, Eric Wilkie. He's like, you need to talk to this dude over here. His name's Christian Dahlbeck, and if you look him up, he'll blow your mind. He's an underwater photographer. And he gets in the water every single day in Lake Superior. He just takes photos every single day. He's got an awesome backstory. I was like, okay, well, now it's not just surfing.
Wetsuit or dry suit?
He wears a semi-dry.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, so we got this surf film. Well, now we need to talk to Christian. So we're going to include his little story. And then Eric, our main character, is like, oh, and you also need to talk to Stefan over here because his son is 8. He was 8 at the time or 10 at the time or something like that. And he's over there right now getting in with the boogie board. And I was like, what? That's insane. And so we're like, all right, we'll talk to Stefan, and Caspian's his name. And then
that is a killer name.
Right? And so we kept talking to all these people, and like, these are so many awesome stories. And then we started asking ourselves, well, Lynn likes to learn things when she watches movies. And she's like, what are we going to learn? I was like, well, I guess we need to explain how are you able to surf on Lake Superior? So let's reach out to a scientist. And my neighbor, he works at the U, and I was like, hey, do you know anybody that we could talk to about Lake Superior? And he emails back, and he goes, would these people work? And it's the Large Lakes Observatory. Their whole job is studying the large freshwater lakes of the world. And I was like, yeah, that might work out very well. And so...
were they based in Minnesota?
They're based in Duluth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's their headquarters there. Yeah. Their whole job is studying Lake Superior and all the other freshwater lakes. And it was during COVID, so we couldn't actually connect face-to-face. But then COVID ended, and they're like, get on the research vessel with us. Let's go talk. And so they connected us with all these scientists, and we started hearing all these facts. And we're like, oh man, this is a whole nother story now. And so our movie went from a 6-minute surf film to a 50-minute feature film about Lake Superior is what it ended up being, and how people connect to Lake Superior. So whether it's surfing or getting in there to take photos or researching it so you can save the water source, like those are all amazing stories that we were able to tell.
You know, that's interesting about, I was just thinking about learning. That really resonated with me, what your wife said about what she learns. One of the things about the podcast, one of the things that attracted me about certain podcasts is if I can listen to a podcast and get 2 or 3 business ideas out of it, I feel like it's time well spent. And I find now I'm 42, but I'm way more interested in learning now than and it wasn't that I wasn't interested in learning. I'm just savage with book tapes, and like I just want to consume knowledge because I just find it so interesting. Your job is fascinating to me, and I'm sure it's a little bit like any job. There's a little grass on the greener on the other side, right? Like, and so, but even so, it's like those 3 days down. Now it was exhausting. It's interesting. I don't think I think I mentioned before I was training for an ultra marathon, so I'd go run in the mornings. But all the standing around, even though it's like standing, but just being on your feet for like 9-10 hours straight. Like, I mean, I'm in great shape because of this trail race I'm training for. But I was wiped out at the end, and a lot of it is talking and engaging.
It's the being on,
and it's
right?
I mean, and so. But I remember talking to Brad as we left that night. I said, I could do this like 3-4 times a year. Like I really had fun, and it filled my emotional bucket because you get so much energy out of it. And Brad's like, I don't know if I could do it that often. Like he liked it. I mean,
it's exhausting,
but it is fully. And his schedule is way more crammed with other commitments that he has. But I loved it. Like. And we're telling a story, for Pella in this case. But I love being a part of this production. And so hearing you talk about stories, going back to Lake Superior, like I love the idea that you get to, your job, I guess, passion prognosis, I guess you're paying for this hobby, is, you get to tell this story, but you get to just, wherever you're interested in going about, you can kind of just follow that vein. And it kind of opened up, like you said, from 6 minutes to 50.
Yeah. And the key is, right, you have to be able to step back and look at it. And not get tunnel vision. Because if we had just been like, no, it's a surf film, it's going to be a surf film, it would have died on the shelf. It never would have gone anywhere.
Do you think you would have got sued if you'd called it Endless Winter?
No, I don't think so, because I could text the guy who owns the copyright and be like, hey, man.
Summer? Yeah. That's so funny.
He's actually, so we worked with Red Bull a lot. That was when we first got our start in action sports. We worked with Red Bull. And my dream, there's this documentary that came out by Dana Brown called Dust to Glory. And it's about the Baja 1000. And it's an awesome story just about this endurance race with motorcycles or trophy trucks or buggies or VW Beetles. But I was like, man, it would be awesome to work with Dana Brown on a documentary. And then I caught wind of this project that Red Bull was working on in it. And they're like, yeah, we're working with Dana Brown. I emailed my guy and I was like, I'm on that. Whatever you're doing, I'm on it. And he's like, cool, you're on. And it turned out to be a motorcycle documentary. It's like these various aspects of the motorcycle and how it's like it's racing, or it's using it to deliver medicine in Africa, or it's just a way of transportation in Vietnam, anything like that. There's just this wide aspect thing about motorcycles. Well, Dana Brown's dad, Bruce Brown, he made the original On Any Sunday. He invented the action sports documentary. And Endless Summer is one of those things, right? Oh, wow. And so that's his trademark was Endless Summer. So my dream was fulfilled right then. I got to work with Bruce and Dana Brown on a documentary, and I was like, cool, I'm done. That was it. I hit my peak.
Wow, that's amazing. So Red Bull, obviously they're very well celebrated.
Yeah.
What have you done? How does that relationship work exactly? I mean, they're a huge multi-million-dollar company. I mean,
billions. Yeah, billions. Wow. Yeah. They're an amazing company to work for, but we don't work with them anymore. We kind of went our different path just because it's a young man's game, and that's a different environment to work in all the time. And I was getting too old to be hanging out with a bunch of 20-year-olds all the time. So it's like, it's always 20-year-olds,
You traded up for surfers from Lake Superior and 42-year-old builders.
Yeah, but we worked on some awesome projects with those guys. It was a ton of fun.
the gentleman over at Modern Craftsman, Tyler Grace, and Nick Schiffer. They're friends of ours, and they have a podcast. But this came on recently. It's going to tie back to Red Bull. But he is a really calm dude, super chill. And the first time he met me, as he left, he told Brad Levitt, he goes, "If you could create my polar opposite, it'd be Mark Williams." He goes, "That guy looks like he just had 6 Red Bulls and a line of Coke." The point was, I was so elevated because I get very excitable, right?
Yeah.
So as a spoof, I was going to come on their podcast. So I actually had custom shirts made of Red Bull, 6 cans of Red Bull, and a line of Coke evidently on it, and I had him open it up on air. And what he really laughed is I actually sent an email to Red Bull to be a sponsor of the Curious Builder podcast, and they never responded. Yeah. And he goes, "I don't think it was the Red Bull. I think it was your line of Coke. That was just a line they couldn't cross."
Yeah, exactly. So. Which, it's a crazy company, and they do a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, we went our separate ways. We just started doing our own thing and ended up in corporate land for a little while.
Yeah. What does when you think about creating a story, just because I think that resonates so powerfully with people, and I've talked to a few other videographers even here locally. We're trying to do something, and I don't know what shape. At this point, it's just the idea, right? Mm-hmm. And it's I've got maybe 4 or 5 builders. We want to go to high schools and start doing like tours and educate. The whole point of our story that we're trying to celebrate is we need more youth in construction.
Yeah.
And there's across the country we're seeing declining. Obviously, we have had declining birth rates for a while in the United States, as well as obviously a lot of developed countries in the world. But we're going to have a major workforce problem, specifically in construction.
You already do.
Yeah, we already do. We're well past it.
Yeah.
I've talked about that on previous podcasts where things like for every 7 master plumbers, only 1 journeyman is taking their place.
Yep.
So for the next 2 decades, it's going to be a huge, huge issue. A high level, how would you create a story around that? Is it, because the whole point of it is, and like, who is there? Is there governments? Is there state grants? Like, how would someone go about, other than a passion project, how would you create a story that would then how would you distribute that to, based on almost kind of like workshop ideas here with you, like how you understand the point? How would I get that out there?
Yeah. And to get it out there is one thing, but to tell the story first is another thing entirely. And I think that always stems from, well, one, you have an idea, right? And ours was surfing. So you just have to kind of go down that path. But I think your idea is more, you have the idea, you know what it needs to be, and now you need to find the characters. Mm-hmm. And so you need to find the character that's going to help best tell that story, and whether that's going to be your apprentice plumber and a journeyman plumber, because you need both sides of this, right? And you say, okay, this is the guy that's about to leave, and this is the guy that's going to take over, and tell their sides of the story, right? Mm-hmm. And what did it take for this apprentice plumber to get to this point? How hard was it to get the jobs? How hard was it to study and do all these things? And then you'd compare and contrast it with the journeyman. And I think the stories you're going to find are going to be, they're just like, in my day there was this, and this guy's going to be like, oh, I did it all online,
Right.
And like, you're going to find some ways to compare and contrast, their origin story and how they ended up. And then you can find that middle ground of, okay, here's where they both intersect. And how do we make this appealing to the masses? How do we make it so the next journeyman is going to want to aspire to be this apprentice, and it doesn't matter how they learned it or where they ended up, but it's about why they do it. That's usually where we end up. It's like, why are you doing this? How can we tell that story?
Right. Interesting. And it's funny because my mind is like, just because I know all these people, like I don't have any, I think finding the people to tell the stories, I think for me personally, would be not the most difficult part. And even production, right? So you work with a company like yourself, it's like, how big is this a series? Is this, there's so much information. There's so many interviews. It's so big.
Yeah.
How would someone go about even funding something like that? I mean, is there like the education department? I mean, how does someone go about figuring out ways to actually produce something like this from a financial standpoint?
Yeah, and that one, we're still discovering a lot of those worlds ourselves. A lot of that's grants. Like a lot of people are turning to grants, or a lot of people are turning to corporate sponsors, because there's so many corporate sponsors out there who rely on tradespeople, right? And those are the ways that you would say, hey, we've got this idea, and we know that your ideals line up with this story that we want to tell. The problem with getting a corporate sponsor is now your story needs to line up with their ideals. Right. And so grants, they don't have to do that. Depending on the grant you get, you can tell your story, and it can be a tragic story if it needs to be. And that's okay. And you get paid via a grant that's a very unbiased grant. It says we're looking for people to produce stories about trades, and whatever that story is, you tell that story. if you were to partner with like Home Depot, they'd be like, oh, I can't be negative, you know, and you're like, well, it's negative. It's not looking so good right now. And they're going to want roses, you know, and that's where you have to figure out, like, do I want corporate sponsors, or do I want to figure out a way to self-fund this? Because the more money you accept, the less control you have. Yep. And that's what we knew with our surf doc. Is like, we don't want anybody giving us money. Yeah. One, I don't know how we'd convince people to give us money for this one. But two, like, it's just, we want to be able to tell the story no matter what that story is.
Is there, out of curiosity, is there a surf shop up in Lake Superior?
Yeah. There's a back alley surf shops up there. They're really cool guys. We didn't work directly with them, but they're always out there surfing. We talk to them all the time.
Right.
And there's a lot of awesome people out there, and there are definitely going to be some people who are haters. We had one who was awesome on Instagram. He loved us so much.
Seriously?
He did not like us. I don't know.
Troll.
He just hated us so much, and I was just like, man, I don't get it. Like he was like, you're ruining the sport, and I was like, I don't know how I'm ruining it. I have zero effect on this surfing game. And he was just mad that we were there and we we're telling people where it was. And it's like, well, one, we're not locating this. You know, we're in Minnesota. That's all we're saying. But two, the dude was mad at us. He lived in Florida, but he's from Minnesota. And I was like, I mean, you're surfing in Florida. You're not from there. You can't be surfing their spot, because that was his argument. He's like, don't surf our spots.
Well, that is funny. I mean, not knowing that much about the surf world, you hear that stuff, right?
Yeah, all the time. And it's like, I don't get it. And that's, our characters were amazing. They're so welcoming. And that's Eric Wilkie, number one. Open arms. You know, he's like, get in here. We're going to introduce you to everyone.
Maybe it's like you should do a story on pro bass fishers. Like, you're not going to fish in my spot, my hole.
Yeah, exactly. I just never understood that. I mean, I get it, because, you know, it gets more crowded, but the world is more crowded. Right. And it just is what it is.
Well, and if your sport's going to grow, and if you're going to continue to pass it on to people, someone has to get grafted in, or this thing's going to die. Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah,
what do you have coming up in terms of, like, what other stories or projects are you guys kind of developing right now?
We got tapped. We were just up in central Minnesota shooting some wild rice harvesting for an Ojibwe tribe that is worried about a nickel mine going in. So we're doing a little bit on that. Those are kind of the stories we like to tell. Like, you know, there's some heartfelt stories that need to be told, and those are one of them. We were up there doing that just the other day. And then we've got some ideas for our next project, which, you know, trades related as well. I think we were talking about this at Pella a little bit, and that's one of our next things. We do want to kind of tell that story as well. So seems like you're the right guy to talk to.
I mean, there's a lot of people around here. I mean, Housing First Minnesota, James Fagley was on the podcast, and so they're doing a whole new training thing. It's pretty high level right now. I don't know all the specific mechanics of it, but basically the whole concept is, you know, if you're not going to go to college, and if you're not going to go down the road of, you know, either financial debt or those things, but just really opening up your world to how much opportunity is in the trades, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I want to have, like you said, I have my plumbers, for instance, are a father and son team, and I would love to have them on. I think Mitch is in his late 30s, and, you know, Rick is probably in his 60s. And, you know, just I guess to what you were saying before, tell the story and have them kind of go back and forth about it. But anyway, going back to Minnesota Housing First, there's such a big lobbying industry for us as well, and very pro building and pro housing in Minnesota. And so they have education arms, they have legislative arms, so they're the right people. It's just, as I've also learned, that you get these really big organizations, they take a long time to do stuff. And, you know, being a small company, I'm a little bit more like a little more freelance. Like, can we start this next week, please?
Yeah, let's just do it. Yeah, we run into that all the time. It's like, guys, a problem with corporations and brands in general is they have what they call as their brand identity, right? And they're like, no, this is who we are. This is the story we need to tell, and this is who we have to market to. And it's like, well, why? Like whatever you're doing, like, you guys are number one, whatever. Let's say Pella, number one. You guys are doing an amazing job. You have the ability to market to these other people too, and that's what we tell all our clients: is you've already got this amazing list of clients. Let's start telling different stories that attract different audiences. The way we like to relate it is, you want to not necessarily be the best in the industry. I mean, it's great to be the best in the industry, but if you have the most brand loyalty in the industry, that's something better, because that means that person is going to, from a marketing standpoint, the person who's brand loyal to you is going to spread the word for free, right? Yeti is the example we use up and down whenever we're talking to people. When they came out and they had this cooler that was $8 bajillion, you know, and everyone's like, why is this cooler so expensive? But they came out of the bat telling amazing stories, like just stories that had nothing to do with coolers. It just had cool stories. And people are like, man, that's awesome. I want to do that. I want to be like that person. I should probably buy that cooler too, because it looked like it was working well for that person who's living a good life. And they launched this amazing campaign where they just shot these videos, and they never once sold their cooler. It was just like, hey, I can't remember her name. The first one they had was called In Current, and it was about a woman who wanted to be a rafting guide in Arizona. And all she wanted to do was paddle. I think they're called dories. They're the wooden boats. Yeah. And those are like the badass
with the two
ones.
oars.
And that's all she wanted to do. And they just told her story about learning how to be a rafting guide and end up in this dory. Not once did they say, and the only reason I was able to be a dory pilot was because of my Yeti cooler. Like there was a lot of brand placement, obviously, but no like overt buy our cooler.
I think it's interesting because I would agree with that. I would say someone who is very much pro sales. My own personality. I am not a very subtle person, so it's hard. I can see how like a corporation to be subtle, to be intentionally subtle when your goal is to sell more. Like I could see how that's a tough ask, even when you believe it and like I'm going to go buy that because it's not in my face. Yeah. I can see why that's hard.
It's almost impossible to believe it. If you're number one and you don't want to be less than number one, and you're like, wait, you want me to do what now? You're like, yeah, I want you to spend a bunch of money shooting a video, and you never once do you sell your brand. And they're like, no, that's not going to happen.
Think of how successful. Remember the old Budweiser commercials, The Real Men of Genius?
Oh yeah,
Real Man of Genius. And this is the first time that the Curious Builders ever sung, and that'll be the last time. But anyway, the point of it was those were amazing. They were such sticky lyrics, and they had nothing to do with drinking beer. They were just these amazing stories, and people were laughing because the humor of it was so catchy. Yeah. And you'd send it to your friends, or I remember that was back in the day when I would quick run over the radio and I'd hit the record and button on your cassette tape because I wanted to record the commercials because they were so good.
Yeah, that's an interesting industry. They were forced to be creative right off the bat because I've since learned it was never a rule, but there was an unwritten rule that you could not show people drinking alcohol on TV. And I don't know if it used to be a rule and now it's not, but if you pay attention, you'll see not many people drink on TV in a commercial.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so a lot of companies
they're always like popping the top open.
Yeah, or they'll get it like right there, but they won't quite drink it. Yeah, exactly.
It's like a prohibition leftover.
Yeah, something like that. I think it was just like a conservative effort, just to be like, let's not really overtly say, hey, start drinking our booze, even though we're trying to sell our booze. But I think when you're hamstrung like that from the get go, like you can't actually drink this, you can't show anybody drink. You have to start thinking outside the box. And so there's a lot of amazing marketing that comes around alcohol.
I mean, they have also massive budgets, right?
Yeah, that helps.
Hey, if any alcohol companies are out there, hire 515 Productions so we can do some cool passion projects on the side.
Yeah, Jeep was another one that did a couple really good spots. I haven't seen any in a while, but they had some amazing spots. It actually ended up being all about the trades. And it was just like, we used to, make things like, amazing back in the day. And we'd like bend the steel with our bare hands and make this amazing Jeep. And
I think there's a deep hunger and thirst for that kind of real, tangible, especially in a world that's so digital. Mm-hmm. Anytime you can show like the cinematography is so beautiful now. I mean, you can show like, sweat pouring down someone's face as they're bending metal, and like, a slow motion of like sparks flying off an acetylene torch. And like, I think people resonate really well to the high definition graphics. Yeah. Because it puts you right then and there.
It definitely helps. It helps to have the right tools, but the story's number one.
The story's got to be
The story's always number one. We are very lucky right now. Lynn was just writing an article about this the other day, but 6-second reels. What's the one?
Instagram?
No, maybe it's TikTok. It's like short little reels.
Okay. Yep.
And it was like 6 seconds. That's what people were posting. And so all the brands are like, oh, we can only do 6-second short videos. There's been a study that's been released now. They're like, no, those are done. People want actual material they can watch and they can learn from and they can ingest.
That's funny you said that. So we have a fairly small Instagram following by the big one standard. Bigger than we were and not as big.
I'm sure it's bigger than ours.
Yeah, but the point is like we've noticed a huge trend over the last couple of months that if we post a video where we're explaining something, that might be very common, right? Mm-hmm. Like a dovetail drawer, nothing rocket science about that, but just explaining it. I mean, people want to learn something, going back to your storytelling. And so we've kind of taken a new rule when we do, kind of self-documented or, I'm on mic just talking about our homes. People want, I think that's why there was such a huge proliferation of, the DIY videos. And I mean, there's how many shows out there. I don't watch them because they're crazy and not always accurate.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I can't take it. But the point is like people want to hear about it. People want to see it happening and they can relate to it. The thing about a home as well is that everyone, most people have a home or live in a home or they're aware of what it is, obviously.
Yeah.
And so it creates a relatability and like, oh, I want to do that. I want to achieve that, or I'm in this right now. How do I get out of this? And so there's a huge appetite, of course, around the home building industry or anything associated with it.
Yeah, and you can't sell it in 6 seconds.
No.
You have to be in depth.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to tell people is it's okay to be long-winded these days. Like there's people out there who are willing to watch that and they're going to invest and they're going to say, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. And now you're building your brand loyalty. Not to bring it back to brand loyalty, but it's all about brand loyalty.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit about some business stuff as we roll it in here to the home stretch. One is your name, I think, is really interesting. So tell us the history behind 515 Productions.
That was the least interesting part of our company.
Well, I think it's kind of cool.
I met my wife in Alaska. I worked at a news station up there, and she got a job at the news station. And there's a saying in Alaska, and you might have to edit this out if you don't feel it's appropriate, but the do you want me to say it?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. They say you don't lose your girl, you just lose your turn, because there's so many men to women in Alaska, right? So if you mess up with your girlfriend and she's going to get snatched up. And then the opposite side of the saying for women is the odds are good, but the goods are odd. And so
that's so awesome.
Basically, when you find someone that you actually love and you want to spend time with, you got to move out.
Yeah.
Because otherwise things might go wrong. But that's all joking aside. So we met in Alaska. She got a job in Des Moines, Iowa, and she calls me up and she goes, "Hey, I just got a job offer in Des Moines." And I was like, "Okay, we're just dating at the time." It's like, "Can I come with then?" She goes, "Well, yeah, I was hoping you would." I'm like, "Cool. Well, we're moving to Des Moines." It's like, where is Des Moines? I have no idea where Des Moines is. So I'm looking it up. And I'm like, oh man, that's way over there. And that's like, it's actually pretty far south compared to Alaska.
Pretty different than Alaska.
I hear it's hot. So we get there and I work at the news station there for about 6 seconds. And I was like, the stories they're telling, again, it all comes down to stories for me. The stories in Des Moines, Iowa are just not as cool as they were in Anchorage, Alaska. And so I was like, this isn't for me. And I quit. And then Lynn's like, well, so what are you going to do now? And it's like, I think I'll freelance. What are you going to call it? And I was like, I don't know. What's the area code in Des Moines? Let's just start there. It's easy. Because in Alaska, it was everyone loved 907. That was the area code there. So it was 907, fabrication or 907 beer or whatever. It was everyone used the area code.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And I was like, I mean, maybe
is that for all of Alaska, by the way?
Yeah. Okay. There might. It should be all of Alaska. Yeah. One state, one area code. So I kind of assumed there's some area code pride in Des Moines too, maybe. And so it was either going to be 907 Productions, which no one would know, or 515 Productions. It worked in our favor because SEO was good. It wasn't as good as it is now. And so 515 appeared at the top of a lot of searches because it was numerical.
Right.
So that helped us a lot. So that's it. That was it. Area code.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of cool. I like stories. I mean, hey, there you go. You got a story, especially like the Alaskan. I have family and cousins that still live up in Alaska. So I definitely get that saying.
Yeah. And it's, when we moved to Minnesota, everyone's like, oh, you're going to call it 612? It's like, well, no, it's our name. Like, you can't change your name. You change your name, you lose the entire identity of the company. And we're proud of it. We've had it for 18 years, coming up on 18 years, and we've done a lot of really fun stuff. And I think this gets to a question you were going to ask about. So Lynn recently just came with us full time. Mm-hmm. So 2 years ago, she started full time with 515. She's always been in the wing. She's always been helping out, but she's always had her own. She was a news anchor for, 15, 16, 17 years, somewhere in there. And then when we moved to Minnesota, she's like, I'm done with news because we got a family. She wants to spend more time with the kids. And so she gets a job at a PR firm and then a corporation. And then it was just like, you need to come work with us full time.
Yeah.
Because she's just got all these amazing talents. And it's like, we need those full time because I can only do so much.
Right.
And so she works with 515 full time now, which has been amazing. Like, we've just had so much fun, but it's hard.
And she's not here to defend herself.
Yeah.
This is a question I love to ask husband and wife. So what is it like working with your spouse?
Oh, it's obviously frustrating.
Yeah.
Like the way I tell it is I have been in a home office for 18 years. It has been just me for 18 years. And when the kids are in school and Lynn's at work, it's just me in the house, and it's amazing. And I have a work style that is very unique to me, and I'm sure a lot of other people are like this, but it's not Lynn's work style, right? Like I will get distracted, or I'll take a break. I'll work for like 7 minutes and I'm like, that was it for me. I'm going to go take an hour-long break, But it's how my creative brain works. It needs like short stints and then long breaks. Lynn likes to like hit the pedal and go. Right. And that's not what I like. But the funniest part was I have my home office downstairs and it's mine. It's all dialed in, and then COVID hits. Now all of a sudden everyone's at home all the time. I'm like, oh, this is bad.
I got to do soundproofing somehow.
This is bad. and then the kids go back to school finally, and then COVID ends. But then Lynn joins 515 full time, and I'm like, oh man, she's here all the time now. And then next thing you know, she ends up in my office downstairs, and she's taking over half the office. And I'm like, I can't. You're like right over my shoulder all the time. I can't do this. And so I moved my half of the office out to the living room. I was like, I'll be working out here now. But then I still can't. I feel like I'm being watched all the time. Like, all right, I'm building a backyard office, and that's where I'm going to end up. So I'm working on that now. But it's hard,
right.
But like we like everyone says, we balance each other out. She's the strict task keeper, which is why we brought her down to Pella, because I knew she'd do that, and I'm the one who likes to have all the fun.
Right.
Not that she doesn't have fun.
Yeah.
But
it's a complimentary. I get it.
I have to have someone like that in my life, so right. I'm glad it's her.
That's funny. Do you often find that you guys talk about business not in the business setting, like at dinner, on vacation, or how do you prioritize? kind of like you guys. It seems I'm guessing that you probably like to escape to the wild and go camping with the kids, or the Boundary Waters, or just kind of get out of the. I assume that's what you like to do. Yeah. So, how are you able to set boundaries, or is it not boundaries? It's just kind of organic.
I think we both feel it. We actually got in an argument the other day because she was trying to talk about work, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done for the day, and she really wanted to keep going, and so we were, snipping at each other about that. But I think Boundary Waters is like sacred to us, and so we just don't talk work in the Boundary Waters. And like I set up so my guys are in town, they can handle any work that pops up, and we go up there to unplug. And so that's like an unwritten rule. Boundary Waters, no work.
Do you guys go just the two of you? Do you go with the family?
Whole family. So myself, Lynn, and our two kids, Jack and Aubrey.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing. They've been going up there since we moved here. Jack was 7 when we moved here.
Okay.
And Aubrey was 5, and so they've been going since they were 5 and 7.
Did you go up this year?
Yep. Yeah. We went earlier this year because Jack just started football, and so his football schedule is a little wonky.
Was the smoke still prevalent up there at that time?
It wasn't too bad, actually. We got lucky. In Duluth, it was really bad, but where we go up on the Gunflint side, it wasn't bad at all.
Yeah. We have a group of cousins that are like brothers. We try to go every year. This year we missed. But to your same point, I just find it so relaxing I wish we could go longer. We only end up going for 4 days just with all the kids, and it'd be nice to go for a week or longer. But because it's like third day in, you finally super start relaxing.
Yes.
It's like, there's no clocks. And I kind of make a rule with the guys because unfortunately now you can get cell phone reception up there.
In some places,
and so I just make sure everyone has them off in plastic bags. You can use them for pictures, or I'm pretty strict about it actually. Yeah. Like the whole reason coming up here is to like completely unplug.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have that downtime, you can't really be refreshed. And whether it's, mountaineering or the Boundary Waters. And I feel like the Boundary Waters is such it's not unknown. It's very well known, especially from Minnesota. But I feel like for how incredible it is, and it's just different, right? Mm-hmm. There's not many places that I'm aware of in the United States where you can just go canoe for a summer. You could literally canoe for 3-4 months, no problem.
Yep.
And so I just think it's such an incredible place to visit and go.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. So. Yeah, no, and Lynn hadn't gone there. She's from Minnesota originally, and her first time going to the Boundary Waters was when the guy from Alaska was like, we need to get away from people. Where do you do that in Minnesota? She's like, well, I heard of the Boundary Waters. I'm like, let's go.
Let's go.
But yeah, we'll go up there. Usually we go for a week. This year we only got to do 4 days, but we'll try and do 3 trips a year. So we'll do 1 in the summer, 1 in the fall, and then 1 in the winter time.
Okay. Wow, you get up there a lot.
Yeah, we try.
The wintertime is really cool. I've not gone up. My dad likes to winter camp a lot, and so they'll go up there in the wintertime. But it's no joke. You got to know your stuff. But he has this big, you had one just like I told you the story. So for those that haven't seen the video yet, which would only be like, everyone but 10 people in the world. Just a dumb intro. So when we did the cold thing down in Pella, Iowa, so because Brad hates the cold, we made him go into a freezer that was -20. And I went in a t-shirt because it's not that big of a deal, and he was freezing his butt off. But he had your Alaskan big down jacket on.
Yeah.
And my dad has one just like it, and we call it Maui because no matter where you go, if you put that thing on, it's like you're in Maui.
Yep.
So,
They're awesome. Yeah. I've got so many jackets. It's not funny. Like Lynn would be rolling her eyes right now because we have so many. Like my Arctic gear is the depth of it is very deep.
Have you gone to? You've been in the poles? Because I think I saw your website.
I've never been to El Pole. All my Arctic work is in Alaska.
Okay.
And so I used to work on a TV show up there. It's since been canceled. It's called Last Alaskans, and I worked for 4 seasons with those guys. And all our work was above the Arctic Circle on that one. That was a blast. And then every year I go up to Alaska and do the Iditarod, and that's 9 to 10 days.
Are you shooting it or are you racing?
Shooting it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm shooting it from a snow machine or a snowmobile if you're from Minnesota. So I get on.
Wait a minute. Well, hold on. They call them snow machines, but not. Why not snowmobile?
Because it's a snow machine. And everyone's like, well, snow machines make snow. And I say, no, that's a snow maker.
Yeah, that's true.
So you have snow maker, and then we have our snow machine. And then as you get further along the trail, they turn into snow goes. Like the native populations out there call them snow goes. But if you just call them sleds, everyone understands. So we'll get on our sled in Anchorage, and then we drive 1,000 miles with this race out to Nome. And it's 9 days of winter camping.
That'd be amazing. Are some of those videos, I assume, on your website?
Well, that one right there, it's looping right there. That's a drone shot from the Iditarod.
Oh man, that's amazing.
So we follow. That's one of our all-time favorite racers, who actually is from Wayzata. Brent Sass is his name, and he's always like a top 5 finisher. He won it 2 years ago. He had to drop out last year, regrettably, but he's a ton of fun. He's like one of the few reasons we continue to do it is because he's awesome.
That's
so much fun.
So obviously, it's funny going back to the Boundary Waters. I remember going up there, I remember my dad and cousins went in, but they got some local guys that were training for the Iditarod. They paid him, I think Dad paid him a couple $100 cash just to help support him. They took him in like 10 miles, dropped him off. He said, yeah, I'll come back in a couple of days if you're still here. Otherwise,
awesome.
just walk that way, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, they knew what they were doing. But
yeah.
Anyway.
I got a friend, it might have been the same guy, the Freckings. They live up in Finland, Minnesota. I was talking to him the other day, and I was like, man, it'd be awesome to just do that. Go get on a dog team and go up into the Boundary Waters and go camping. So we got to work that out.
And you see that Iditarod, and it's obviously well regarded as one of the hardest races on the planet, right? Mm-hmm. And but I remember my dad and I went up to Ely, and I think it was Wintergreen was the name of the outfitter, and we did dog sledding for like 2 days.
Yeah.
I was bored out of my mind. It was so slow. In my mind, of course, at the time, I was, I'm guessing I was late 20s at the time. Yeah. And I'm thinking like I got to lean into the curves, and it was all like 70-year-old, retirees and like me. And I was like, I got off and started running next to the dogs, and it was like, and the dogs you become such fans of the dogs, and so. Anyway, that would be fascinating to shoot something.
Oh, it's amazing. And like you said, people are fascinated with the dogs, but that's also a reason why they're struggling a bit right now is because they're getting attacked from the animal rights activists who are coming after them. And so they're struggling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sponsorships are dropping out a lot. But if you meet people like Brent Sass, who's from here in Minnesota, and how he handles his dogs, they're not abusing the dogs. No. And this is what the dogs want to do.
Well, and that was funny you say that. So the instructors up there in Ely were saying the same thing. That particular March was pretty warm, and the dogs actually like it a lot colder than that. When it gets too warm, it's actually hard on them.
Yep.
Out of curiosity, just because we're recording this in downtown Excelsior, every winter they have the downtown Excelsior dog sledding race.
Yep.
I always am gone that weekend. But
is that the one that runs around Minnetonka, right?
Yeah, it goes, and I think it finishes right here, just a street away from where we're recording right now. Did you do any shooting with that?
No, I've never done any. I want to go and do something up on the Bear Grease when that one happens this year. And then there's rumors of a certain Minnesota coming to do the one you were just talking about.
Okay.
So if he comes out, I'll definitely be shooting that one.
All right. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Have you done any? Because I know they have, your sport interests. Have you ever done any of what's the one up in northern Minnesota, just over the Canadian border, where it's like 135 mile?
That's the Bear Grease. The one.
No, but it's a running race.
Oh,
you can.
Oh, the Arrowhead.
The Arrowhead.
The Arrowhead 150.
I think you can run it, bike it, or ski it.
Ski it. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you done any?
Shooting of that?
Yeah.
No. That's we just saw there's a guy who just did a documentary about it. It was in a film festival. One of our friends she just did the ITI, which is 1,000 miles on a bike. So they run the same exact trail as the Iditarod, but she's on a bike. And she's one of the featured athletes in that documentary. And that's just crazy. But the ITI that's 1,000 miles.
Well, we definitely need upper game with storytelling in the building world. So look for some cool things from. Let me work on some grants and sponsors.
I love it. Yeah.
That would be a really cool collaboration to see how we can, tell the stories that needs to be told, frankly, across the country.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing could be a.
I think to wrap it up, I think the one for the trades, the one storyline that it's not an original storyline, but the one that we really want to harness and really tell is the pride. Right. Like, and an apprentice plumber is going to be proud of what he's done. But what we want is we want the rest of America to be proud of that guy. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's the story we want to tell, because it's like, that's our foundation. That's where we started. We had these amazing craftsmen. And to get back to be proud of craftsmen is the story that we want to tell.
And I 100% agree with you. Someone said it better than I can, but they're basically saying, like, over in Switzerland, a lot of framers go to trim school or framing school for several years. Mm-hmm. And the comment is there is no blue collar or white collar. You just have a collar.
Yeah.
And the idea is that you can make a good living, be well respected. Mm-hmm. It's not a taboo. It's not like you dropped out of. It's not a negative thing that you're in the trades. I feel like right now, over the last 20 years, however that changed, it feels like a lot of people looking on have this. I think it's changing because I think honestly video storytelling is helping it a lot.
Yeah.
In the proliferation of Instagram and even all the short videos, people are being very well celebrated for seeing how these homes are constructed and built. I think that narrative is changing, and I think it needs to change way more than it currently is. Because the whole point is when I talk to my framers, I'll sometimes ask them, what's your favorite part of your job? And they'll say, when I leave at the end of the week and I look back as I'm leaving in my truck, which is stereotypical, but it's true, and they can visually see how much they have done in a single week. There's not very many jobs anymore that you can visually see signs of progress. Building, skyscrapers, buildings, whatever you're building and crafting. I think there's knowing that there's that kind of self-pride from the people and the craftsmen doing it is super cool. And that's actually been the number one reason that as I've asked people, I'm not the only one, but it's more than the pay. They feel a deep satisfaction in creating something and being part of something.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's nerdy because my favorite part of the job is when I look back and the room is empty. Like, we've been there, we've absolutely destroyed this place, and we put it back the way we found it. I don't know why. I'm like, that is so cool. You can't even tell we were here. But no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's very
there's
important.
still not a bunch of there's not a jungle safari in that warehouse
that disappeared right then and there.
I remember because we hauled them all out together.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. It was a pleasure to work with you, and I hope to do so again. And again, where can our listeners, if they want to reach out to you to either work with you or to find out more about you, what are some good platforms to reach out to?
Just go to 515productions.com. There should be a contact us page or connect. It looks like it says there, or Instagram, 515 on Instagram.
Okay.
You'll find our numbers out there somewhere. Google us. We should be pretty high up on the list as well.
Yeah. So especially if you're in Iowa.
Yeah, exactly.
So, very good. Thanks for joining the Curious Builder podcast. If you liked what you heard, please give us a 5-star rating and like and rate and review. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like what you listen to, please give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It really means a lot. It's a great way for us to just understand what you like about the podcast and what we can keep doing. So like and review, and please share with your friends and family. Find out more at curiousbuilderpodcast.com.